Hi, I'm Lauren Ayres from Howardco, and I'm here today to talk to you about a really important topic that's very dear to my heart. I love organisational development and people development. It's in my blood. I come from a background where this is something that's been very highly prioritised all through my upbringing. But enough about me, let's talk about you. You're likely a business owner, a senior executive, or you might be part of an HR team where in your organisation, you've got managers that are technically great at what they do, and yet they're struggling a little bit because they're lacking some of the foundational people management skills. I can tell you a quick story back over 20 years ago when I was working in London, and I was in a big facilities management company, global company, and we were working for IBM, right? We were looking after one of IBM's sites. And I worked there with a manager at one stage. He was brilliant. We were friends, and I had just seen how he was technically awesome at all the things that he did. And through that, he got promoted and he got promoted and he got promoted, only to find that he got to a stage where he was looking after, say, 30 or 40 site staff, and he was really struggling to know how to really manage them effectively. And I remember looking at that back then going, that's interesting. You know, you get promoted because you've got great technical skills, but then there becomes this big gap when it actually becomes part of people management. And so here we got this video today. It's called 3 Ways That Struggling Managers Hurt Your Business. And so let's dive in and find out how we can fix it. Okay. First one, look, might go without saying, but struggling managers don't just affect their teams, right? They're affecting your bottom line. I'm a very big proponent of being efficient, making sure that you don't have duplication of effort, making sure that you've got a great culture, because really culture is the underpinning acceleration of everything that works well for you in your organization. And so if you've got managers that don't know how to deal with team problems, they might have low team morale, they might have some conflict in their team, they may not really know how to look for hiring the right people to come and join them and think about it in a little bit more of a strategic fashion. All of those challenges that managers face have a direct impact to you as a business owner, say, or senior executive who's trying to drive the business at a more strategic level. So these struggling managers aren't just affecting their teams, they're affecting your bottom line. So what is the first way that struggling managers hurt your business? The first one probably goes without saying. Most of us know about it. Communication is unclear or inconsistent. One of the challenges with your managers, if they don't know how to work on their communication being clear and direct and making sure that their team understand what it is that's needed of them, then they're going to struggle to get their message across. That means that you might have your manager's team doing the duplication of effort because they're unclear. I remember talking to a client last year, and she had this challenge that she had people in her business that were just going off and kind of doing their own thing because that's what they thought, was wanted by the business. And it hadn't really been clearly and effectively communicated from the manager down to the people looking after them that no, actually we don't want you just going off willy-nilly, spending your time doing that. We need you to be focused on doing this. This is what I expect. This is the outcome. This is how much time you've got to do it. Do you have any questions? All right, so communication, unclear, inconsistent, it's a big thing that costs your business. We are going to be talking about today the Practical Manager, which is a program that we're launching this year off the back of having done the individual modules at various different times with various different clients and recognizing that there's a big skills gap. Communication is a core part of understanding the Practical Manager and how it can actually help you and your organization so that you can achieve the vision and the goals that you want to achieve by actually enabling your managers with practical management skills. Great. Let's now have a look at what the second way is. Way 2, no accountability means constant hand-holding. Now, this is not you needing to hand-hold your managers, although you might find that you're doing it. It's that your managers end up hand-holding their team because they don't know the skill of how to hold their team accountable. We have a client of ours who struggled with this a lot through his career. He didn't quite know how to hold his team to account, despite the fact that he had 3 or 4 managers working for them. And most of those managers were underperforming. And so he ended up doing the bulk of the work and was ending up working 60, 70 plus hours a week because he was carrying his team, right? So this is where managers become overwhelmed because they haven't worked out the art of knowing how to hold their team accountable. And it's hard for managers to know what to do if they're not used to it. Sometimes it can feel a bit rough if they go to a training session and they're told, here's how you hold your team to account. And then they go back and they're like, but how do I go from not holding them to account and bailing them out to now needing to hold them to account? And so we talk about the pathway for you to build that part of your culture within your team. Now, I've got a statistic here. One of our managers we worked with went from hitting 68% of their team deadlines to 95% of their team deadlines because he introduced more accountability within his team. It's an important component so they can have more time to focus on the things that you need them to be focusing on rather than rolling up their sleeves and doing their team's job for them. Okay, so that's way number 2. Let's dive into way number 3. Performance issues are avoided, not addressed. Managers often don't do that because they don't want to make a situation worse. They perhaps don't know how to do it with tact and sincerity, and they might come at it too because they're overly emotional about how frustrated they are by the individual's performance. Okay, there's a lot of different reasons why people underperform, but the reality is underperforming people cost your business, and therefore managers who are not addressing underperformance are equally responsible for that cost to your bottom line. So what we want to do through the Practical Manager, we have an entire session dedicated on dealing with underperformance. Now, the focus is not necessarily on what's the performance management process, formal warnings and everything like that. What we're going to be teaching your managers is how they can actually get to the point where they're actually addressing these problems before they become an issue. It doesn't have to be a scary task, okay? For many managers it is, because they just haven't been through a process of doing that. Or they might have been through a process like that and had really negative repercussions, perhaps. Maybe someone got, aggressively upset with them, or maybe someone ended up resigning because they didn't appreciate the feedback or things like that, right? So this is about helping your managers know what to do and how to make sure that they're addressing those challenges. We cover that in the Practical Manager with really, really practical tips for them, making sure it doesn't get worse. Now, I don't even know if a perfect manager exists. There might be a few of them out there. I may have spoken to one the other day when I was doing a reference check, but you actually really do need practical ones. We've done a lot of research over the last 6 months looking at what is the gap in the market that businesses are really struggling with. We've seen Wiley's research. We use Wiley with DISC. We've seen feedback coming out of Australia with various HR companies and the surveys that they're doing, and even just from our conversations that we've been having with our clients, managers need to have practical skills. And there's nowhere that's really offering a program that's going to work, that's bite-sized, that's easy, that's practical, that's tangible. And that's why we've decided to design and create the Practical Manager. We're covering off communication, giving and receiving feedback effectively, managing underperformance, as we just talked about on the previous slide, how to actually recruit and find and select the right people for your team, and then how to onboard them effectively as well. We're also going to be covering how to manage conflict, all right? And then lastly, as we talked about also in way 2, about accountability, right? How do we teach that accountability? Now, here's where it really hits the road. We are introducing a tool called the Manager Impact Tracker. And this is a tool that will be given to every manager that goes through this program right at the very beginning, and they will be able to track all of the impact that they're having from each of the modules that we cover, and saying, I did this in the workplace and I was able to resolve this conflict. And that would normally have chewed up 6, 8, 10 hours of the week, right? And as a manager, you will see the power of the practical training through the Manager Impact Tracker, right? I guarantee you that you are going to see that you will get an ROI based on the skills that they're going to be learning. Here's just a quick sample of a Manager Impact Tracker. I'm not going to go through all of this because it's a lot of information, but let's just say we take that top line. The skill they've used is communication. Now, they've used situation, behavior, impact, which is a giving and receiving feedback tool, clarify a task with a team member, and that saved up to 1 hour of rework. Let's put a $50 cost to that, right? So the team got it right. Right, so how many times in a week are you going to have an opportunity for your managers to be able to do something with much clearer, specific information that's actually going to save the business time? Now, let me give you a little bit of an insight into the training program as well. It is once a month, every 4 weeks, 2 hours. That's all, to come for a live training session on each of our particular chosen modules. It's online, so they don't need to leave anywhere. It's non-disruptive to the workplace because they can find 2 hours. We've put it over lunch break as well. So if managers are super busy, it's just allowing for that time, right? And then in between, the managers are then invited back to come to a discussion session for an hour. They've got a problem, they don't know how to deal with it, they can come back. We'll just do it over lunch, have a chat, talk about particular issues that people have got. And it's a way of providing live case studies of how to actually deal with the problems that these managers are facing with their teams. So, what's possible when managers improve? As I was just talking about, infinite possibilities. Depends on what your manager's situation is. They might be good at some of the things that we're talking about and not so good at others. There's a potential for you to save a lot of money off your bottom line by improving your manager's skills. I know I'm focusing on the bottom line because I know that that's one of the challenges that people think about. And also as business owners, I know the number one reason that most people are lying awake at night is usually people, and it's usually cash flow, right? They're both really, really important. Great. So as I was saying there, spots are limited for our Practical Manager program. We are keeping it very tight. We want this to be interactive, informative, helpful, and that means that we'll be limiting the people to 12, and our early bird signups are ending on April the 9th. Now, if you want to enroll, there's a QR code. If you want to just have a look at the course in a little bit more detail, we've got the registration page there. You're welcome to just go and have a look at it, see the information, find out for yourself what's involved, how much it's going to cost you, and talk to us too. If you've got a whole group of managers that you'd like to take through this program, we can absolutely do that as well, bespoke for your organization. So thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure chatting to you, and we'll catch you soon.